A man in an expensive suit with a glass of wine walked through the hall flooded with light. He is the best assassin of the Eastern lands. He doesn't care who his opponent is. In 5 seconds, he is able to deal with anyone. A security guard with glasses started shooting at him, but the man was already behind his target and eliminated it in one blow. He has mastered all types of weapons and perfectly knows how to arrange accidents. This makes the target's chances of survival 0. This man loves his life, but still, he ended up being killed by someone. Someone asked the man, "Don't you think that such a finale would be too uninteresting?" There was laughter. In front of the man, a guy who called himself a murderous intent system appeared. He said he would help find out the identity of the killer, but first you need to complete several tasks for it. The man was transported to different worlds, different from ours. In each of them, there was someone who was filled with murderous intentions. Now the task of this man is to neutralize or erase other people's intentions to kill. The man said, "I'm a decent man, but I'm going to have to dance with the devil. Out of your head, plunge into the countless cycle of murders. My future life in straight will be quite interesting." The half-naked girl resisted. "Are you out of your mind? Let go. Let me go." A group of classmates tried to undress her. All this was also broadcast on the internet. In the comments to the stream, someone wrote such phrases as, "Test legs," "Respect to the streamer," "Looking forward to the content," "There's something new here every time," "Hurry up, hold her tight," "We're in summer school," "Did you really want to call that volunteer for help?" A group of girls were ripping off their classmates' clothes. A guy turned to her. "Have you been looking for him?" Next to the guy abuser was a drooping guy without clothes. "Hey, our excellent student Jung is desperately calling for your help." The guy with no clothes on was called Wu Kai, a volunteer at the X-Hay summer school. "Your name is?" A group of guys pushed Wu Kai to the floor and started laughing at him. One of them said, "Wu Kai, you know what's required of you." Wu Kai reluctantly crawled towards the bullied girl. He said, "I'm sorry Jong, I don't want this either, but they're forcing me." When Wu Kai was about to reach the girl, he was kicked to the side by one of the guys. He said, "Did you really think you'd get something?" One of the girls behind said to the bully, "Wang, why aren't you treating him too harshly? He doesn't look like someone who can survive for a long time because he can still die." The guy told her, "Don't be so fearful. Even if he actually dies, none of the students will be held accountable for it." A group of boys and girls continued to bully the class leader. Wu Kai sat on the side and quietly apologized to her for being useless and unable to help. Blood was trickling down the back of his head. The abuser grabbed the girl by the hair and said, "You were so begging for help, so who came to your aid?" The girl begged for help, at least from someone. Suddenly, several dialogue boxes appeared near Wu Kai. Native Wu Kai, status, dead. The killing intent system activates transference. The offender grabbed the girl's face. "Shout, shout louder. No one will come to your rescue." All this continued to be broadcast on the internet. Commenters wrote, "I'm sure the smell of this excellent student is incredibly intriguing. Don't give up on your dreams. I know what this place is. Is this summer school X?" The girl screamed, "Why are you doing this to me?" The rest of the students watched in silence. The guy replied to the girl, "Didn't you like to get justice for weaklings? Since that's the case, you'll take their place now." The girls agreed with the guy. "Precisely. You're such a noble here, so you should take their place, right? Why are you floundering? Don't play dumb." The guy grabbed the girl by the hair. "Be an obedient girl, otherwise who knows what will happen to you." Meanwhile, the girl's gaze froze. The boy also noticed that something was wrong and turned his gaze to another part of the classroom. Wu Kai got to his feet and put on a lab coat. The guy got angry. "Hey, Wu Kai, who gave you permission to get dressed? It came here." Commentators on the internet were surprised by this development. "Can he still stand? What's the use of getting up? Ha ha ha." Wu Kai straightened his shoulders and exhaled. He looked at the dialogue box and asked, "Is this my first task after rebirth?" Then he tied up the long hair on his head. The system laughed and replied, "That's right. In 72 hours, you need to kill the person who provokes violence in this school. For you, the man who was the best assassin in your past life, it's a simple matter, isn't it?" Speaking on behalf of the system was a small masked creature called the Killing Intent System. Wu Kai replied, "Then you can prepare the next task for me, and I'll do it quickly." Everyone in the class was surprised when Wu Kai got to his feet. The abuser asked him, "Did your head completely go overboard?" It is worth noting that they were in the chemistry room. Wu Kai went to the table and picked up a flask, then stirred something in it and poured it into another flask. He said that in 30 seconds, everyone who is here will die. The guy who molested the girl was completely angry. "What are you talking about? You dare to ignore me?" The system looked at the flask of liquid and commented, "He, you decided to use rattlesnake mercury. Please remind me that the first rule of our contract is that, with the exception of the object of the task, you cannot kill other people on your own initiative. Otherwise, your death will be final and irrevocable." The angry guy pulled up his sleeves and walked over to Wu Kai. Wu Kai placed the flask of liquid on the table and pushed it slightly. It started to fall. After that, he said, I have always been a law-abiding citizen. How can I kill someone? Except that no one is responsible for accidents. A flask of liquid fell near the guy and exploded. Wu Kai walked up to the guy and pretended not to know anything. When did Kobo crash? The guy's arm was badly burned and there was a lot of blood. After seeing this whole situation, the system thought, this person decided to take advantage of loopholes in the rules to kill people. Yes, he is simply our ideal carrier. With him, our plan will go flawlessly. The system also added, if you implicate too many innocent people, the task completion score will be lowered, and this will affect your resurrection. Wu Kai replied to the system, what do you mean by innocent? You mean this gang of bullies? Or are you talking about those who stand on the sidelines, watch blankly and think they have nothing to do with it? The system responded that from the perspective of the task, with the exception of the specified goal, everyone is innocent. Your standards are interesting. I'm really flattered to receive such an assessment from you. The guy with the injured arm was writhing in pain on the floor. He shouted, kill him. I want him dead. At this moment, Wu Kai ran up to the guy's 3 companions with lightning speed and broke their ribs. They fell to the floor. He said that students are pushing their classmates around willfully, and no one stops them, and besides, they have forbidden goods that could be used to make rattlesnake mercury. How interesting. If the method used by the target of my assignment to incite violence is incitement, then there is a high probability that my target is not present in this crowd. In addition to the fact that I don't need to involve the innocent, I also have a time frame to find and finish the target. Wu Kai stepped on the guy's injured hand. Then he walked over to the girl and they looked at each other. Wu Kai said to her, who would have thought that we would see you again so soon, and even in such an environment? Thank your luck that I just happened to be here. He stroked her cheek. Just 2 days ago, I was the best assassin in Dragon Country. It didn't matter who my target was. In just 5 seconds, the target was killed by an accident. But that me is dead now. Wu Kai recalled the old days and how he was in the arms of a beautiful girl. There was no sign of my death. And then he showed up and gave me a chance to find my killer. The system said, in order to encourage your recent observation skills, I decided to award you a rank ahead of schedule. Wu Kai turned around and looked at the dialogue box. Character panel. The name is Wu Kai. Gender is male in this world. Age. The age of life is already over. General characteristics E+. Status. Carrier of the murderous intent system 54,782. Faction hinders killing. Title student. Experience unknown. Equipment mixed dressing gown. A cherished wish, stab your killer to death with your own hands. Task in this world, in 72 hours to kill a person who provokes violence on the territory of an educational institution. 71 hours and 55 minutes left. My title is student. Wu Kai watched the classroom and various dialogue boxes appeared next to it. He looked at the lamp and its characteristics. An old lamp that needs to be repaired. Characteristic, transparent and shiny like a rising star. Purchased in the 20th century. Degree of comprehension, 10%. Study status, study is possible. He then looked at the table. Damage chemistry desk. Characteristic, judging by the condition, after the explosion, it is no longer possible to use. Bought in the 20th century. The degree of comprehension is 5%. Study status, study is possible. Wu Kai also pointed at the students in the classroom. In the dialogue box, it was written that these are students engaged in bullying. Characteristic, they only obey the call of their heart. Is this wrong? They were received in 2000. Degrees of comprehension, 1%. Study status, studying is possible. Wu Kai felt that these skills weren't of much use. Right now they are limited due to the fact that I have a low level. The system replied to him, that's right, after studying properly, you will be able to advance to the next level and gain more exceptional abilities. That is, you need to master it perfectly. A voice came from the other side of the door, Wu Kai, you're doing something. What a deafening sound it was. The teacher ran into the classroom and the students ran up to him. Director, save me. Wu Kai wants to kill us. Wu Kai, meanwhile, paid no attention to anyone and continued to stare at the dialogue boxes. The degree of comprehension of the chemistry table has changed to 20%. Wu Kai said, so that's what it is. The student needs to understand the object being studied, and the lifeline contains a brief summary. It won't be too difficult to raise a skill. Only by reaching a deep understanding can you get in touch with the essence of the object being studied. The main point for increasing the rank is probably mastering the skill of observation. Unlike working as an assassin, this is more like a skill that a scout needs more. However, this is quite suitable for my current task. The director ran up to Wu Kai and said, Wu Kai, you will take full responsibility for everything that has just happened. You will have to make it clear to your parents that this incident has nothing to do with my summer school. Wu Kai looked at the director in his dialogue box. A director who enjoys voyeurism. Characteristic, head of the educational part of classes. Being conscientious at first glance is actually a pervert addicted to covert filming. Life, born in 1900 in an unknown year. Degree of comprehension, 15%. Study status, it is possible to study. Wu Kai put his hand on the director's shoulder. You're right. The director panicked and said, what are you up to? There's no point in fawning over me. Someone must be held accountable for today's incident. Wu Kai put his lips to the director's ear and said, of course, someone must be held accountable. But we will talk about responsibility for some of the photos that the director so carefully keeps on his computer. The director smiled nervously, adjusted his glasses, and asked, Wu Kai, what was that explosion just now? At the same time, he was thinking about how Wu Kai was able to find out about his secret. Wu Kai replied that it was just an accident. The guy with the injured arm got angry. What kind of accident? It was obviously your doing, Wu Kai. Director Liu, quickly arrest him. The girl who was bullied runs up to director. She said, it wasn't like that. Wu Kai is a good person. He only did it for me. The director was embarrassed to see the girl's torn clothes. The girl realized what she looked like and screamed. Suddenly, a girl with blonde hair ran out from the side. Her name was Yulian. She is the best friend of Jiang Pinger, the girls who were bullied. Yulian asked, are you okay? That explosion scared me. You've been through so much to come to my defense. No wonder they're targeting you. Jiang Pinger put her hands on the girl's shoulders and said that she was fine. Meanwhile, the guy with the injured arm started to lose his temper. He shouted at the director, Liu Ziyuan, are you not listening to me at all? The headmaster didn't know what to do. On the one hand, Wu Kai is just a soft-bodied whipping boy. If you intimidate him a little, then everything should be resolved. Because on the other hand, if you displeased Wang Wei's father, the construction money that the director wanted so much would be lost to him. But the problem is that there are too many people here right now. We need to come up with some way. Wang Wei, the guy with the injured arm, said, Director Liu, I'm genuinely starting to doubt your abilities. You still haven't been able to figure out such an obvious case. He pointed his finger at Wu Kai and Jiang Pinger. Seeing their clothes, you can immediately understand that they were engaged in some obscenities that we accidentally found here. That's why Wu Kai covers up his shame with anger. Other classmates can confirm this. Am I right? Wang Wei cast a glance in the direction of the classmates. Their faces were drooping and a little hesitantly they still agreed that everything that happened was the work of Wu Kai and Jiang Pinger. The police officers in the classroom seemed to believe it. The director turned around and pointed his finger towards Wu Kai and Jiang Pinger, then said, we're not going to tolerate obscene people like you here. Jiang Pinger's eyes started to fill with tears. It wasn't like that at all. Why are you lying? Her friend tried to cheer her up and said she believed her. Jiang Pinger isn't that kind of person at all. Wu Kai threw someone's jacket on top of her and said that a girl should show her tears only to a loved one, but not to people like them. Wang Wei's face twisted in anger as he said, do you still cross me, Wu Kai? How can you compete with me? Wu Kai took out his phone and showed the webcast recording of everything happening in the classroom. He asked, are you sure of what you're saying? Wang Wei couldn't figure out when Wu Kai managed to steal his phone. Wu Kai said that some people were smart enough to leave evidence of their bad deeds, so there's no point in repeating themselves. Wu Kai called everyone shameless liars. Watch out that you don't get caught up in an accident, as it happened to him. Wu Kai grabbed director's head and said, I guess I'll make a good choice, right? Wu Kai looked very scary in the director's eyes, like a death with a scythe. The headmaster couldn't help but think that if he disobeyed Wu Kai, he would die. The director walked up to Wang Wei and slapped him. Then he shouted at him, Wang Wei, how dare you do something like that? Security, take him to the dorm and then contact his parents. The security guards grabbed Wang Wei by the arms and began to lead him away. Wang Wei shouted to the director, do you really want to get donations from your father for construction? The explosion was his doing. Arrest him, arrest him. After that, the principal quickly ordered all the remaining students to prepare for the next lesson. He then asked Wu Kai, what do you think of my way of dealing with this issue? Wu Kai answered him, it was inspiring. I have already sent a message about the director's heroic act to the Department of Public Education. I have also attached your outstanding photo collection to it. I am sure they'll quickly figure out what's what and reward you for your outstanding service. The director was shocked and fell to his knees. Wu Kai, you're joking, right? If anyone finds out about this, my life will be ruined. Wu Kai, the director continued to say the main character's name plaintively. Looking on, Jiang Pinger was surprised at how quickly the director changed. Yulian approached the girl and offered to accompany her to the dorm. She agreed. Leaving the classroom, Wu Kai looked at Wang Wei's back. The man told him that he would never get away with it. Wang Wei also glanced at the guy with glasses. Wang Wei asked the gatehouse to let him go, as he would find the road by himself and there was no need to follow him. He was incredibly angry. Wu Kai, you signed your own death warrant. The dialogue box showed that the task was 71 hours and 35 minutes away from completion. Wu Kai was walking down the street and suddenly a dialogue box appeared in front of him. The Chu formation alert is 80% complete. Suddenly, the system appeared and said, just as you took on the first task, you already set the Chu in motion. Wu Kai, you really are the most charismatic speaker I've ever met. Wu Kai didn't understand what Chu formation he was talking about. The system explained that in the worlds where you will perform tasks, a person who completely surrenders to the intention to kill can turn into a monster called Chu. 80% means that someone is going to die soon. At the very least, it's interesting to see how many seconds the legendary assassin will be able to hold out against Chu. Wu Kai replied that he was also curious about what the creature was like and what it would feel like to kill it. The system said that as soon as you see one of them, you will immediately know that Chu is not an opponent that a human can handle. From the window of the school behind them, someone who looked like a monster was already looking at them. This monster wanted to die. Wu Kai suddenly turned around and looked in the direction of the school. The system also turned around and asked, "What is it?" The main characters turned around and walked on. "Never mind, it's time to get busy." The main character and the system were in the room. The main character was testing his abilities. He explained that if you want to live longer, you can't use unfamiliar abilities. The entire room was filled with item dialogue boxes. He glanced toward the chair. Ability, study. Ability radius, 3 meters. The degree of understanding is limited to innate skills and memories. If you combine previously known information, you can get unknown data based on previously known information. It would also allow unknown data to go beyond the limitations of innate skills and memory. After connecting the birds and plants dialogue boxes, the main character saw another dialogue box. Name, bird droppings. Biography, every year has a chance to be in this place. Based on the statistics of the past 4 years, the probability of getting litter on flowers in this time period is 0.0001%. Ability, accelerate bird excrement. The radii of time to use the ability depends on the mental state. Currently, the duration of use is approximately 5 seconds. I was hoping to check out what would happen if he used this ability for a specific purpose, but given his low mental abilities, it would be extremely unwise. It will only expose him. And the system took place nearby and asked, is he really going to give up? She also thought that the main character was much better than the past people who killed themselves with their own abilities. Wu Kai explained that all he needed was a completely safe person. Wu Kai looked in the mirror. The time counter showed that there were 54 hours and 21 minutes left. The system asked, so the words about using the ability for a specific purpose referred to yourself. Wu Kai replied that the best material for the experiment can only be a dead person. What's the matter with him now? Wu Kai used the ability, and a dialogue box appeared. Name, Wu Kai Spiritual Space. Biography, born in 1900 in an unknown year, died in the 2000th. The physical shell is currently occupied. Abilities, none. Additional explanation, given the circumstances of the death, the system owner can directly enter the memories of the former owner of the physical shell. I don't recommend doing this next time. Wu Kai didn't understand what it means to directly enter the memories. Haven't I already acquired all of his memories? The system said, check to make sure. Wu Kai touched the projection of the body. Then it hit him. So, I was talking about something. After entering the memory, I can observe all the events of his past from the perspective of God. The system explained that the share of unconscious information is still much higher, that is, that people consciously keep in memory. Since the human brain is not able to process all the information, in order to prevent your collapse, all the excess information is stored in short-term memory. Wu Kai replied, judging from this angle, the white fog zone is exactly the information that Wu Kai I didn't perceive at that moment. If that's the case, perhaps by observing, I can find the very person operating in the shadows. Wu Kai watched the life of the person he possessed from the perspective of a god. August 13th. In order to gain experience and before the interview, which will take place at the end of the year, I decided to work as a volunteer for some classes of the summer school. My dream is to become a teacher. I had to go through a lot of difficulties in my school support. In those days, it was only because of my teacher that I didn't give up, who always helped me. From then on, I decided that when I grew up, I would become a teacher like him and help my students. Walking down the street, he saw a group of guys bullying and beating a girl. He immediately ran over and grabbed Wang Wei's arm. Stop it. Why are you bullying your classmate? Wang Wei got angry and kicked the teacher. Who else are you? Where does he come from? Poking us into other people's business. Wang Wei started hitting him with a belt. After a while, the young teacher was already standing in the principal's office and trying to prove that you can't indulge students who tear apart their classmates. The headmaster adjusted his glasses and said, all right, let the student tell us what happened. The girl hesitantly remained silent. That is all right. Tell me what happened. We will definitely help you. The girl began to cry. The director turned around and said, since nothing happened, you can leave. Wu Kai, next time don't say I didn't warn you. Be smarter. And if you start making trouble again, no one will vouch for your career as a teacher. The teacher and the girl left the principal's office. Jiang Pinger came up to the girl and asked if everything was fine. The girl apologized to the teacher. In the days that followed, he was subjected to such terrible treatment that he could not even imagine. Food was thrown on it, snakes were placed on it, and stones were thrown at it. For a moment, he wondered if he really should continue to stand his ground. He thought that if he didn't create any more trouble and lasted until the end of the summer break, he could go from being a volunteer to becoming a teacher. His years of suffering could finally pay off. You just need to look away from the children who are in a difficult situation. Pretend you don't know anything. After all, I'm just an ordinary person in wood, and I don't have a way to help all the kids. That's what he thought. At some point, he couldn't stand it anymore and pushed Wang Wai, who continued to bully the girl. After that, he had to deal with the director again. The director said, "You again. Why is it that when something happens, you're always involved? I'm already starting to regret taking you on as a volunteer. You're just a magnet for trouble." And even if the novice teacher understood that it really would not bring any results, but if he could even improve the situation of that girl called Xiao Qi a little, then it would be worth it. At some point, the girl gained strength and confessed that Wang Wai and his buddies bullied her, and Wu Kai stood up for her all the time. Wang Wai was madly angry. The director asked if this was true and the girl confirmed it. The young master never thought that all his efforts would lead to such an outcome. One day, this girl with a broken head fell from the roof. The young teacher howled in frustration when he saw her on the ground. Wang Wai came up to him and said, "What are you looking at? It'll be your turn soon." The young master thought that if it wasn't for his arrogance, if he didn't interfere in Xiao Qi's affairs, perhaps Wang Wai's antics wouldn't have gone to such an extreme. The young teacher got to his feet and said to Wang Wai, "Is this your doing?" Wang Wai laughed in his face and said, "Don't talk nonsense without proof. Or do you want to run into trouble?" The teacher believed that it was his weakness that killed Xiao Qi. He swung his fist and jumped at Wang Wai, then a group of guys started beating up the teacher. "Please, someone stop them. Help the other innocent children." When morning came, Wu Kai stood silently and looked out the window. The dialogue box showed that there were 48 hours and 11 minutes left until the end of the mission. The system asked him, "Well, what are your impressions after learning about the previous carrier? He's naive, stupid, weak, and even though he looks almost exactly like me, he's completely different from me. This guy is no good, but still, I don't hate him. The last wish of a man is definitely worth respecting." The system asked him, "What are you going to do? There isn't much time left to complete the task. If you can't find the target of the quest, you will die." Wu Kai's face twisted into a smile. Meanwhile, a group of guys in the schoolyard were beating up a chubby guy. The guy shouted and asked to stop. It seems that he can't stand it anymore. The offender swung and once again punched with all his strength in the stomach. He said, "Stop pretending. Someone like you shouldn't feel the blows at all. You can help us practice. If I earn Wang Wai's favor, then my position will rise as well. When that time comes, you'll also be promoted to head errand boy, haha. But with your current skills, I'm afraid you're not going to get anywhere for the rest of your life." Wu Kai came up behind them and the abuser turned to face him. "Wu Kai, is there a problem in your head? So can't wait to be beaten up." One of the guys tried to talk him out of it, because Wu Kai isn't what it used to be. Wu Kai hit the guy in the face and sent him flying into the pipes. Wu Kai said, "Now that you've seen it firsthand, do you realize how worthless your punch is?" Meanwhile, a group of guys were sitting in the room, drinking alcohol and smoking. They watched the other two guys fight against each other. One of them said, "Good, drink up. If you win, you can take a break next week. And if you lose, I'll make you lick toilets." One of the fighters fell to the floor. Seeing this guy sitting at the table, got angry and grabbed a bottle. Then he smashed it on the corner of the table and started hitting the loser with the sharp part. "Do you have any idea how much money I lost because of you? Get up, get up. Why are you sprawled out? Get up and fight on." The guy lying on the floor covered his head with his hands and asked to stop. He also thought, why do such people live in the world? Why exactly do we have to endure their attacks? Why can't anyone save us? Suddenly, the door to the room opened and Wu Kai walked in, looking like a savior. The guy with the bottle in his hand answered him, "What are you doing? Did you want to participate in our club activities?" Wu Kai looked around the room and said to the fighters, "Your skills aren't bad. Why don't you fight back against these bullies with such abilities?" One of the guys answered, "I don't want to get into trouble. Besides, I can't handle them alone." Wu Kai said that it's not that you can't handle him. It's just that you've decided that it's much easier to fight those who are weaker than you. Besides, this way you won't have to overcome your fear. You're a coward. The fighter got angry. "Do you understand something? They are all henchmen of this Wang Wai. On the school grounds, they decide everything. Even the teachers can't do anything about it. As a teacher, you can't help yourself. Someone to reproach me." At this point, the blonde guy got up from the table and said, "What kind of play are you playing here? Come on, let's get out of here." He pulled the cigarette out of his mouth and tried to put it out about Wu Kai, but Wu Kai grabbed his hand and took the cigarette away. He went on to say that in any business, before relying on others, you should think about what you can do yourself. He twisted the blonde's arm so hard that he fell to his knees. The boy screamed in pain, his arm aching. Wu Kai then stubbed out the cigarette on his tongue. Smoking is bad for your health, you know that. The boy screamed even harder. Seeing this, the rest of the group of guys sitting at the table couldn't ignore it. Young people are so fearless. After a while, all the offenders lay beaten on the floor. Wu Kai dealt with them right in front of the fighters. Wu Kai walked up to one of them and put his hand on his shoulder. You see, it's not that hard. I did what I should have done. You should also think about what you should do. Then the system asked if it was time to return to the task. Together with the original media is almost complete. Wu Kai said it wasn't even close. What I'm going to do is not of it all. I just want to remind others of something important. The system was surprised at how the killer changed his character. Meanwhile, another group of guys were beating up another guy. The guy was lying on the ground and begged to be released. Well, horror, let go. I didn't do anything to you. Why are you treating me like this? One of the abusers answered him, just like that. Consider yourself out of luck. Next time you see us, don't forget to stay away. Wu Kai appeared behind the offender and said, you're just cockroaches, no doubt. No matter how many of you are destroyed, someone will still get it. So much garbage in this school. The guy turned around. Wu Kai, what are you doing here? Wu Kai replied that he already had a good impression of him. It looks like you were in class yesterday. The guy got angry and grabbed a rake, then threw a punch. With a single wave of his hand, Wu Kai broke off the rake tip and they flew up. Then he punched the guy in the face. The guy flew off, fell to the ground, and the rake tip landed close to him. Wu Kai looked at the other two guys, their faces contorted with an evil smile. Wu Kai, do you think we're scared of you? Suddenly, there was a sound in the bushes and a group of guys came out with pipes as weapons. I guess you're running into our people everywhere today. We've been waiting for you here for a long time. Let's see how you can escape. People on the sides began to gather and watch the battle. It looks like teacher Wu Kai has clung to Wang Wei's people. It's horrible. He's all alone. Maybe we should call the police. I don't want them to pay you back later. A group of guys started attacking Wu Kai. Did you want to play hero? Come eat dirt. You can't make a wall out of it. Wu Kai knocked the guy out with one foot, then kicked all the other attackers several times. A guy attacking with a bamboo sword on his back was kicked right in the face by a guy who was recently saved by Wu Kai. You dare to go up against them, aren't you afraid? The guy clutched his face and said that he was really afraid. He further added that the teacher was right. If I want to change something, I will have to start with myself. Another bunch of hooligans ran up to them. Did you get your tower blown down while praying? Decided to go after Wu Kai. Can't you see how many of us there are? Suddenly, another one of the guys joined Wu Kai's side. I'll help you too. More and more people started joining them. The leader of the group of hooligans shouted, don't be afraid of them. There are more of us. But after a while, they were all killed. Look, the winds changed. The system opened the reverse report window and said that it took a long time to participate in this school drama. What do you plan to do next? The timer showed that there were 40 hours and 21 minutes left. Wu Kai's team, along with the beaten-up hooligans, moved on. Wang Wei and his gang came out to meet them. His face was madly angry. Wu Kai, did you do something? The main character walked up to him and tapped his forehead with a knuckle. These students started a fight on the school grounds, and now I'm taking them to the office for an educational conversation. Wang Wei's eyes turned red with hatred. He shouted, those who have followed Wu Kai, you will see what will become of you when I am in full view of the order here. One of the guys told him that no one was afraid of Wu Kai anymore. Wu Kai nudged him with his shoulder and they walked on. Wang Wei's face was becoming less human with anger, and it was as if someone was crawling out of his injured arm. Rumors that Wang Wei was finished started to spread throughout the school, and some people still didn't believe it, but it was true. A bunch of hooligans watched Wu Kai from afar. Are we going to put up with this? After what he did to us, how do we get back on our feet? Where has our credibility gone? Wang Wei grew angrier and scratched his hand harder. Wang Wei asked the bespectacled guy, when will everything be ready? When will you get it? The bespectacled guy replied that he needed a little more time because what Wang Wei wanted was strictly guarded. Wang Wei kicked the bespectacled guy in the stomach with all his strength. He grabbed his hair and added, just don't think that Wu Kai can help you. Your ancestors work for my father. If you don't listen, you know what will happen. He knocked it to the floor. The bespectacled guy knelt down and grabbed Wang Wei. I will definitely get everything. Please don't involve my parents. One of the guys said, we can't wait for your plan to work. We'll just go and finish him off. One of the guys wanted to protest, but Wang Wei stopped him. Forget them. It wouldn't be a big deal if they gave him a beating before our little surprise. Meanwhile, a group of students crowded around Wu Kai. Everyone was charmed by him, and the students thanked him for helping them. Many people were also interested in what kind of martial arts he used to do. The system looked at the timer and said, the cost of your childhood games was losing most of the time to complete the task, so you decided to play hero and then go to the next world. Another dialogue box showed that the Chu formation was 98% complete. If you don't do something about it, I might already be looking for a replacement for you. After all, in about 2 hours, the Chu will already be formed, and then it's over anyway. Wu Kai replied that he knew what to do. He opened the door to the neighboring classrooms and went in. Jiang Pinger was sitting at the table. He walked up to her, held out his hand, and asked, "What's the matter? Do you have time to talk?" The girl hesitated, but her friend answered for her, "Yes, there is." The girl blushed with embarrassment. The system started flying around Wu Kai. "Are you really neglecting me? I've given you a unique opportunity to be reborn, and you're using it to flirt with a woman. What about the task?" Wu Kai replied, "If she really is who I think she is, then she will be the most important link in this quest." Wu Kai and Jiang Pinger were walking down the street. The main character asked her, "At what point did Wang Wai and his company start to bully you? It wasn't like that before." And although they were busy with all sorts of pranks, their actions had never gone so far before. The girl looked at Wu Kai and her face turned red. "Teacher, is there something on my face?" "No, it's as beautiful as ever." Wu Kai placed his hand on her cheek and asked, "Jiang Pinger, did you know me before?" Wu Kai recalled how he had already met a girl with the same appearance. "So you are Wu Kai? I know you. You're #1 in the Hitman rankings." The girl finished off the guard with a knife. Just a laugh. Only an idiot would hire a hitman based on his position on this wretched list. Then she pointed the knife at the main character. "If you get in my way, I'll send you after your targets, even if it's against the best interests of the top brass." Wu Kai whipped out a knife and quickly brought it to her neck. He said, "I am glad that we reached mutual understanding at the first meeting." The girl smiled and held out her hand. They were both dressed in festive evening costumes. "You're really friendly, just like the rumors said." Wu Kai took her hand and they walked into the hall. Friendliness can only be maintained between people of equal strength. In that case, I'm probably the only man in this world who has won your favor. Wu Kai noticed a movement to the side. Someone on a motorcycle cut the power lines. Wu Kai pulled the girl closer to him, his face close to hers. "Is there anything you want to tell me?" In the past, when they were at the ball, their bodies were also close together. Jiang Pinger smiled and looked at Wu Kai and said, "In the direction of 4, 6, and 7 o'clock. 2 in each direction. You, too." Holding hands, they turned in different directions and started shooting at their opponents. They danced and dealt with their targets. They enjoyed being in each other's company. In the end, all the opponents in the hall were killed. Wu Kai approached the girl's face, but an electric cable sparking with current flew in their direction. Wu Kai reacted in time, grabbing the girl and jumping away. At the same time, a motorcycle without a driver came at them. At this time, someone also pours water from above. The electric wire comes into contact with the water and everything starts to sparkle. The bike is also close. The system, expecting that the main character is about to die, has already begun to look for a new carrier. Wu Kai hugged the girl to him, threads of dialogue boxes reaching out to his hands. Wu Kai replied to the system, "When you say that in front of me, it really hurts me." Next, he used the ability, the first skill of Disciple, Boundless Ocean of Knowledge. The bike exploded. Wu Kai stood in the middle of the burning fire, hugging the girl. Inside the school, everyone panicked. No one could understand why the light suddenly disappeared and what that loud sound was. What just happened? It looks like the teacher moved his hand a little, and then there was an explosion. Jiang Pinger looked at the main character and said how cool he is. Wu Kai picked her up and ran. Meanwhile, in the chemistry lab, the bespectacled man took cyanide out of the refrigerator. Wu Kai told the girl that the real teacher had already died, and by borrowing his body, he was now helping the students resolve the issue with the person who was secretly inciting violence. The system asked why you just went ahead and told it everything. Wu Kai replied that the rules do not prohibit this. The system got a little angry and said, "Yes, they don't forbid it, because no normal person will believe it." Jiang Pinger said, "I understand everything. I also have a request. Please let me help you." Wu Kai crossed her arms and asked, "Don't you care that all my words might turn out to be lies?" The girl replied that the difference between Wu Kai and the former teacher was really too great. Besides, what's the point of deceiving me? Money? I'm just an orphan. Obscenities? There are much easier ways to do this. I believe you, so let me help. Wu Kai smiled. "That's right, great. I just need some help with a small matter. In that case, take good care of me." Suddenly, Wu Kai began to glow and a light energy appeared around his body. The second skill of the student, mental connection. Energy surged into the girl's head. The system was a little surprised. Right away. "Is that weird?" The system replied, "Of course it's weird. Do you think you can just go to the depths of your mind space whenever your heart desires? When creating a person, we divided him into the ego, the part that represents the harmony of spirit and matter, and the superego, responsible for moral attitudes, as well as the subconscious, which is a set of instinctive drives. If you plan to enter someone else's thought space, first of all, you need to get the approval of the ego of the opposite party. This requires strong sympathy from the opposite party, or it's death. Then you need to resist the inexhaustible limitations imposed by the superego. Only by breaking all these chains can the subconscious mind found. Finally, the influence of the purest primal impulses and animal passions of the subconscious must be avoided. Only after all this can you start exploring the thought space of the opposite side. You are able to enter the deepest layer of space. In other words, this girl doesn't have the limitations of a superego. The system thought that this girl was a saint from birth. Wu Kai was walking through the school grounds when he saw Jiang Pinger protecting another girl from bullies with a stick. Jiang Pinger turned to the girls and said that everything was fine now. This was the beginning of their friendship. Next, Wu Kai watched the memories and how the three girls spent time together. After that, Wu Kai opened his eyes and exited the memory mode. He was lying on Jiang Pinger's lap, then stood up and she asked him, "You suddenly fainted. And you also said to take care of you. The only thing I could do was put you on the bed. Did you sleep well?" Wu Kai answered her, "Yes. Do you have any other questions for me? Like what just happened, or if I could find any clues?" She said to him, "I know that you are a good person. I trust you. If there was anything I wanted to ask, was I able to help?" The system thought that this girl's chastity was simply discouraging. Wu Kai patted the girl's head and said that she was very helpful. He was already able to calculate the goal of the quest. Wu Kai was about to say out loud who the target of the task was, but he looked at the dialogue box. In the window, it was written that the formation of Chu was 99% complete, and there are 37 hours and 42 minutes left to complete the mission. The system was surprised by this indicator because usually the target repeatedly hesitates before finally turning into a Chu. Wu Kai used his boundless ocean of knowledge ability. Threads connected to the item dialog boxes led from his hand in all directions. The system said, "So here's the thing, by getting the anomalous information that the properties of the items provided to you, you were able to determine the plans and actions of Chu." Wu Kai was looking at the dialog boxes of various items. Photo frame. Feature, an ordinary photo storage frame. In the biography, acquired in the 2000th years. Degree of comprehension, 20%. Study status, study is possible. Hallway. Feature, connects all passageways. Biography, it was built in 1800 unknown what year. 7-0 ago, a strange fingerprint was left here. Degrees of comprehension, 40%. Change status, study possible. A broken street lamp. Characteristic, a street lamp on the way to the men's dorm. Biography, built in the 2000th years, 3 hours ago strangely crashed. Degrees of comprehension, 31%. Study status, study is possible. The system asked why Wu Kai did not use this technique to drag the target of the task, but the main character replied that he tried, but such information could not be found. Either this means that the goal of the task is not located on the school grounds at all, or the ability ranks did not give a result. He kept reading the item's dialog box. A security camera that is not available for use. Characteristic, it operates regardless of weather conditions, monitors the peripheral area. In life description, due to an intervention, it has fallen into disrepair. Degree of comprehension, 0.1%. Study status, cannot be studied. The system wondered, how is it possible that the rank ability didn't produce results? Wu Kai walked towards the exit, and the girl followed him. Meanwhile, the bullies were in the classroom. Wang Wai was drinking an alcoholic drink and then threw it at the guy with glasses. He shouted, "Did you really think buying us alcohol would get you out of it after you didn't get what I asked for? You're trash. How does the earth even carry you?" Wang Wai grabbed his neck. His hands were completely covered in what looked like blisters. But suddenly the classroom door opens and Wu Kai walks in, followed by Jiang Pinger. The main character asked to release the guy with glasses. Wang Wai laughed and said it was too late. He had already lifted the guy up by the neck and his arm was swollen. It started to transform. "You can watch your student die right now." But all of a sudden, Wang Wai and his entire gang had blood coming out of their mouths. Before he fell, Wang Wai guessed everything. The spectacled guy. "How dare you poison me?" Wang Wai fell down and his eyes rolled back in his head. The guy with the glasses started to cry. "He's finally dead." Then he laughed very loudly. "Dead, dead, finally dead." A dialog box appeared next to it that said that the Chu formation was 99% complete. The system added that it turns out that the one who started to transform into Chu wasn't Wang Wai, but this nondescript boy. A person who is immersed in darkness will eventually be completely absorbed by it. Rest in peace. Wu Kai walked up to the bespectacled guy and wrung his neck. The girl closed her eyes. Wu Kai started to walk out of the classroom and said that he only took pity on his fate. The system asked, "Do you think that you were able to settle the Chu formation issue?" Wu Kai glanced at the bespectacled man's body. Next to it hung a table that said that the formation of what is completed at 100%. His body began to transform and greatly increased in size. The body looked more and more like a monster. The system laughed. "It seems you're in big trouble, Wu Kai. The girl was frightened, but the main character told her to move away and not interfere. Wu Kai threw the fountain pen directly at the monster's eye, but it shattered into small pieces. The tip of the iron alloy pen couldn't even injure his eye. The monster grabbed his arm and knocked him to the ground. Miraculously, he managed to regroup and get back on his feet. Not only his strength, but even his speed had increased. His physical shell had gained all-round reinforcement. But it doesn't matter. Although it has unusual and physical characteristics, its structure is still similar to that of a human, which means I can see his deadly weaknesses in plain sight. Wu Kai used the boundless ocean of knowledge ability. He ran around the monster and then a spear appeared in his hands. Wu Kai swung it and smashed it into the oracle. Blood flew everywhere. Then, a small arrow appeared in his hand and he hit the monster's solar plexus with it. It hit him in the spine, but the weapon was stuck in his vertebrae. The Echidna system smiled and said, and then I thought that it would be enough to hit the weak points and it's in the bag. You're so naive. Chu is a work of art that reflects the perfect release of the subconscious mind. Each Chu has a characteristic and attributes that are based on the noticeable desires and impulses of a person. The monster roared, the main character flew into the wall, and even broke through it. The monster crawled through the hole and out into the street. The system explained that among the Chu, the attribute that he had awakened wasn't considered that strong. But for a beginner, it is the most unpleasant. Waste description of the monster's characteristics. Name, Chu. Level, unstable. Attribute, self-reinforcement. The system also added that in the current state, the main character cannot defeat the enemy, whose physical properties go beyond human limits. My host, what will you do? Jiang Pinger was startled when she saw this, and she screamed, call the police soon. There's a monster here. And the monster reacted to this and ran in her direction. Wu Kai got up from the ground and pushed her away, but the monster tore off his arm and then threw him to the side. Wu Kai flew into the trash cans and the system flew up to him. Are you giving up? In that case, lie down and let me do the meteor replacement. Wu Kai replied to him, look, I told you that trying to change the feeder right in front of me is completely indecent. The system was surprised. Is it really possible that in such a desperate situation it is still capable of doing something? The main character recently discovered something interesting. It uses the boundless ocean of knowledge, self-reinforcement ability. Threads of dialogue boxes stretched from the monster to the side of the main character's hand. It is possible to study self-strengthening. The system was surprised. What a joke to use the Chu attribute on a human body. If you want to die torn to pieces, you don't have to drag me into it. The sight of the lesser of blood and flesh is too disgusting. Wu Kai used another ability, boundless ocean of knowledge, combining. I'm afraid you won't get rid of me that easily. System threads also extended from creatures like the gecko. Possible study, discarding the tail. A field sparrow. Possible study, mating plumage. Plaster. Possible study, shedding. Pine tree. Possible study, germination. By relying on the ability of third-party objects, the main character suppresses the negative influence that studying the Chu ability carries. Wu Kai's hand regenerated and their fists hit each other. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand more from the recovery of shattered bone and muscle tissue. This man's willpower is truly terrifying. Wu Kai continues to fight the monster. Even if you use third-party skills to suppress the negative effects of Chu ability, how long can your body withstand such a load? Just a minute. Half a minute. Wu Kai replied that even if it was only 10 seconds, it was enough. Wu Kai kicked his opponent in the head and sent him flying into the school building. Then he jumped on his head and pinned him to the ground. There are 8 seconds left until the end of the ability. The system commented that even in this case, the main character's villages wouldn't be enough to kill him. What if there are 2 of me? The main character's severed arm flew up where the main character was, and the arm bone turned into a spear. Wang Wei focused Chu's physical enhancement ability in one hand. 2 seconds left until the end of the ability, and the main character jumped on top of the monster, punching it through. The system said, I knew there wouldn't be any problems with you. Now all you have to do is figure out the purpose of the task and you're done. Wu Kai tied up his disheveled hair and said, it's not that simple. At the moment, my physical condition doesn't even reach 1% of my peak strength. With the current task goal, it won't be easy. The system said that given the main character's abilities, it would be incredibly easy to kill an ordinary person even with 1%. Jiang Pinger ran up to Wu Kai. It's so good that you're all right. Wu Kai turned towards the system and said, didn't you want to know who the target of the quest is all along? The system wondered, is this person really here? Jiang Pinger charged at the main character and stabbed him. Wu Kai, who would have thought that your naivete would be so adorable? From behind Jiang Pinger, her friend Yu Lian appeared. She twirled her hair and asked, how does it feel to be stabbed by a student you trusted? The system was surprised by this development. So what's going on? Why would he turn out to be a completely different person? Wu Kai pulled out a shard of glass from his hand and threw it towards Yu Lian. She is the person who secretly incited the violence. Now is the crucial moment. The girl replied that she was offended to listen to such a thing. In front of her stood a guy who took the glass hit. The glass slammed into his shoulder. The girl said, "You are the ones who broke into my Garden of Eden without permission and ruined my toys." The system noticed that something was wrong here. The person that Wu Kai hit didn't make a single sound. And also, no one is surprised by Chu's huge corpse. The girl explained that it was all because she hypnotized them. The system was surprised that the girl could see it. The system said, "Wu Kai, it looks like you're too unlucky. She's the original host. No wonder your abilities didn't work last time. Such a peerless specimen is born only in one of 100 worlds." Initially, the host also has the ability of titles. Wu Kai pushed the system away and said, "It looks like you've been preparing for this moment for a very long time, doesn't it?" The girl replied that this was not the case at all. "We can assume that the preparation began with that incident in the chemistry class. Besides, didn't you try so hard just to get to me? I'm your charming student. How could I let Wu Kai do everything by himself?" The mesmerized students, along with weapons in their hands, rushed at Wu Kai. He dodged it. Easier said than done. In fact, you probably don't have much fun watching your playground collapse step by step. The girl walked up to Jiang Pinger and hugged her. "Wu Kai, be careful, girls don't like this kind of stuff." Wu Kai knocked out all the students who attacked him. But despite this, even after they are knocked out, they still get back on their feet. How to manage them? As long as they're alive, they can only obey orders. But Wu Kai isn't allowed to kill people, is it? Wu Kai so that he couldn't get up. The system wondered, how did it know that Wu Kai can't kill? The girl replied that she was watching Wu Kai. "It was obvious that you had enough strength, but you didn't kill Wang Wai. Out of kindness." I highly doubt that such words apply to the person who used Quicksilver to undermine those people. Add to this small creature that is spinning around you and the conclusion suggests itself. For some reason, you can't kill my toys. And yet, you've leaked me over and over again, trying to find me to lure out my current incarnation. Is it because the small creature beside you assigned you some business related to me? As Wu Kai continued to fight off the students with the bat, a tractor hit him in the back and he jumped away. Yu Lion guessed what the goal of the task was. The system responded, "You're so smart. Wu Kai, don't you want to die so that I can perform a media replacement?" The girl also noted, "Is there a time limit for this task?" among other things. Otherwise, in such a situation, you would have already retreated and would not have rushed forward headlong. The system looked at the countdown dialog box. The timer showed that there were 12 hours and 21 minutes left. "This lady is quite interesting." The girl said that in this state, Wu Kai would never be able to break through her toys. Wu Kai replied to her, "To be honest, I'm rather curious. If you see these people as just toys, then why is Jiang Pinger still by your side?" Yu Lion hugged the girl and said that it was because of love. "I just love her pious and proud appearance." Yu Lion said that she fell in love with her from the very first time they met, when she saved her former toy, Xiao Qi. "I immediately wanted to rip her mask off with that cheerful smile, so I organized a poison attack on her. I humiliated her and even arranged for Xiao Qi's death. So that girl wasn't afraid of Wang Wai at all, but of you. You're crazy." She said, I'm sorry. "Wang Wai, if you show me a nice kneeling position, maybe I could show you some leniency." Wang Wai replied that these words were more applicable to the girl. Yu Lion laughed. "Do you think you still have a chance?" Wu Kai replied that the villain should not be arrogant ahead of time. Surprises happen just when you think you're going to win. The system saw a dialogue box and it said that the Chu formation was 100% complete. Who could turn into Chu? Isn't everything here under her control? Around Jiang Pinger, a vortex of dark energy began to gather. The girl turned to Yu Lion and said, "So it was you who killed Xiao Qi. It looks like our main acting character has finally awakened." Yu Lion wondered how you were able to handle my hypnosis. Jiang Pinger was furious. "You've been using me all along, and I've hurt so many innocent people." Yu Lion replied, "I'm coming and the clouds are falling, so what? Are you angry? This is ridiculous. Shouldn't you want to save me, as well as the people who hurt you?" Jiang Pinger said that she didn't deserve it and swung her fist. The system and Wu Kai watched from the sidelines. "Wu Kai, you're just a lucky guy. Who would have thought that the newfound Chu would help you complete the task? There is no place for blind luck in my plans." After all, just before that, 5 minutes ago, Wu Kai had walked up to Jiang Pinger and activated the thought connection ability. Then he awakened the girl. "Jiang Pinger, wake up. Do you want to know the true cause of Xiao Qi's death? Wake up. Face the truth." The system was surprised that this ability can also be used in this way. However, you took advantage of Jiang Pinger's hatred and decided to stand by while she turns into Chui kills. You're so heartless. Wu Kai knelt down on one knee. "There's a BY, as a young lady destroys everything and everything is not my taste. I prefer to do everything myself. Besides, aren't you curious to know which is more powerful, love or hate?" Wu Kai rushed towards Jiang Pinger. Meanwhile, Yu Lion, who had surrounded herself with a shield of disciples, was happy to be able to see Jiang Pinger with such an expression. There is no such thing as genuine kindness in this world. This even applies to you. Jiang Pinger pushed through the students and almost hit Yu Lion. Go ahead, Jiang Pinger. Tear off your hypocritical mask. Release the darkness that lurks in your heart. But suddenly Wu Kai appeared and I stopped her hand. Don't be so naive, young lady. How can you tell evil apart if you don't have kindness? Wu Kai brought his lips close to Jiang Pinger's and lightly kissed her. The girl recovered instantly and blushed. Yu Lion was angry. What? You brought her back to consciousness with just one kiss. What nonsense. Wu Kai turned to her and said that he would tell her the answer to this question in the next life. Then he snapped his fingers and a sharp bone flew into Yu Lion's forehead, killing her. All the students who had been hypnotized earlier were also caught with her. A dialog box appears. Task completed. The final reward calculation will be confirmed upon returning to the killing intent space. I think I should go. Jiang Pinger grabbed his arm. Are you leaving already? Yes, I'm just getting back to where I belong. The girl from the park asked if they could meet again, but Wu Kai replied that it would have been better if it had never happened. Then his body disappeared. The students who were unconscious slowly began to come to their senses. Jiang Pinger looked up at the sky, still unwilling to part with Wu Kai. Meanwhile, in the killing intent space of C-444, Wu Kai was in an abstract space. This is the place where the results of the task will be summed up. Our stronghold. The system replied, true. This is a space that can only be accessed by media that have successfully completed the task. Now you need to wait until he makes a decision, presents the award, but this means the next task, and consider it done. How long ago that was. Due to past carriers, I haven't been to this place in several hundred years. Wu Kai looked to the side. You're saying only carriers can get in. Not far away, the figure of Jiang Pinger appeared in this abstract space. The girl couldn't figure out what this place was. The system was shocked to see this. How is this possible? Meanwhile, in the real world, the same system as the main character appeared near the corpse of Yu Lion. You originally agreed to become our host yourself. Today's failure must not be repeated. A gap appeared in Yu Lion's body from the back, and a translucent creature with hooves that looked like a girl crawled out of it. She said, failure is what makes life so interesting. After all, life without a worthy opponent is too boring. Her body began to materialize and take shape. The girl took the form of a queen bee. The girl said, can't you approve of my inclinations? On the other hand, it is unlikely that the word inclinations is applicable to monsters that lived for 1,000 years. In any case, I've already agreed to become a carrier, or whatever you call it. I look forward to seeing Wu Kai again. The scars he gave me, I will fill with his blood. Character, Yu Lion. Title, Queen Bee. Name of abilities, the first ability is All for One. After it finally took shape, the surrounding students seemed to go crazy and started fighting each other. Meanwhile, in the killing intent space of C-444, the system asked, what's wrong with this girl? Not only had she managed to return from the Chu state, but now she had also entered the killing intent space. Was she also originally a carrier? The system began to fly around the girl and inspect her. Unlikely. How can the carrier initially be so ignorant? The girl shyly pushed the system away and said, I'm sorry, could you please stop? I just wanted to be with teacher Wu Kai, that's all. What a discourteous girl. Do you even know who you raised your hand against? Recently, to finish the system, Wu Kai approached the girl and asked, what will your family think of you when you suddenly go missing? The girl replied that she was an orphan. Since childhood, I had to work and study at the same time, so I never managed to make friends. I didn't barely manage to meet Yu Lion. I thought I'd found a friend, but in the end this happened. Vishisaka told the system's history, your story is unfortunate, but what does it have to do with us? Go on, go on. Quickly return to your world. Don't make trouble for me here. The girl replied that all she wanted to do was follow the teacher, and besides, she didn't know how to get back. The girl turned her gaze in the direction of Wu Kai and noticed that something was flying at him. Teacher, watch out. Wu Kai turned towards the incoming object and wanted to fend it off, but in the end, he just spread his arms and let it approach. The system said don't be nervous. He's the one checking your grade. Don't resist. A long tentacle approached Wu Kai's forehead and began to read out information. Degree of task completion, A. Reward for completing, talent points, 5. Experience points, 80%. Carrier potential, then the carrier potential dropped from it to C. The system said C rank, meaning natural data is above average. I think you can survive visiting about 10 worlds. Not bad, plus you got 5B attribute points. Apparently, he's happy with the way you completed the task this time. The tentacles also approached Jiang Pinger's face. The system said that it must have decided to check on this lost girl as well. Right already. Your eyesight must have gotten really bad from old age. Waste of energy. The tentacle read the information. Then Wu Kai grabbed the girl's shoulder and pulled her away. The interface showed a rank talent. This was felt by the gods in different parts of the world. In the North European region, the area of ancient Egypt, area of Japan, in the UK area, as well as in other well-known areas. The system's eyes lit up when it found out about the rank. Young lady, do you have any heartfelt wish that you want to fulfill? Would you like to consider becoming my host? Whatever your desire, I can help you fulfill it. Wu Kai pushed him away. The girl asked, Teacher Wu Kai, what does this rank mean? Can I stay? The main character put his hand on her head and asked her to just call him Wu Kai. The girl blushed a little. The system appeared between them again and said that since they were already here, they should look for rest rooms for them. Well, that's bad luck. A new task has been received. It looks like you'll be able to get some rest next time, if you come back alive. The girl moved closer to Wu Kai. He patted her on the head and said that it looked like the place of residence would have to be examined another time. The system told Wu Kai to stop flirting and follow her. A feather landed on Wu Kai's shoulder and their bodies began to leave for the next mission. Wu Kai turned to the girl and asked her to wait. She had a sad expression on her face. Wu Kai opened his eyes to a new world. Everything around him looked very different. People around him noticed Wu Kai and started taking pictures of him. The system looked at Wu Kai and laughed. It turns out that in this world, you're a girl, and pretty good looking, too. Wu Kai thanked him for the compliment and looked at his body. In the area of his chest was a sword that he then pulled out. The transformation of energy and the arrangement of matter in this world is beyond imagination. Suddenly, several windows appeared in front of him, each one stating that the Chu formation was 50% complete. What's the deal? We've only just arrived and haven't done anything yet. The surrounding people saw Wu Kai in the girl's body and couldn't believe their eyes because the girl should already be dead. This is the first time I've seen someone survive after their digital data was destroyed by the blade of law. Were those rumors really true? The system said that based on the available information, this is the rhyme star where clean energy is the leading force. Wu Kai sheathed his sword on his back. Suddenly, windows with the main character's photo appeared everywhere. Police Officer 9874 is suspected of committing a crime. We ask all citizens to be vigilant. Wu Kai, this wanted criminal seems to resemble you. Why such uncertainty? The word a little is clearly out of place here. Suddenly, hologram boxes appeared around Wu Kai. Humanoid robots began to emerge from them. Wu Kai started using his hand to destroy these robots. Well, their destroyed parts start to regenerate. It seems that these are the dominants of pure energy. The system called out to Wu Kai, I hope you don't get destroyed before you meet your partner. What other partner? Wu Kai barely dodged the shot. Didn't you look at your assignment? That's right, I never showed it to you. Here it is. A dialog box appears. System Task 2v2, Destroy Capet. Destruction of targets without the occurrence of Chu. Destroy targets when 3 Chus occur. Destroy the target when 10 Chus occur. Destroy the target when more than 10 Chus occur. Before Wu Kai could finish reading it, the robot's fist made its way through the dialog box and hit it. Wu Kai, your reaction is no good. Wu Kai took advantage of the disciple's second ability, a limitless ocean of knowledge. Threads with information were pulled in the direction of the main character, but no dialog boxes appeared. Does the limitless ocean of knowledge act only on matter and have no effect on clumps of energy? A group of robots aimed their laser weapons at the main character. Based on my experience, I should have been able to enter this world with a new one after the original owner of this body died. Therefore, there must definitely be a way to destroy energy in this world. Wu Kai took out his sword and cut down the rays flying at him. Then he stabbed one of the robots in the head with his sword. The sword sucked all the energy out of the robot. It turns out that this sword can also be used like this. Wu Kai continued to chop down the opponents. Soon, there was no one left. Even robots can't stop you. Wu Kai replied to the system, don't be so naive. It is impossible to control the peace of the entire city relying only on robots of this level. Therefore, destroying them will only attract more powerful pursuers to me in the end. Until we understand the situation, do not get into trouble. I hope we're a so-called partner. Wu Kai didn't finish speaking as someone landed on top of him. It was a bald guy along with a C-5214 killing intent system. Haha, it's been a long time since I've seen other systems. Wu Kai looked at the pile of robots. They were burning with green flames. Why did these mechanisms take on a material form after his attack? Is this an ability of his rank? The bald guy dusted himself off and introduced himself. Am I Lai Feihong? A noble husband. Title, Confucian. Once again acquaintance, beauty. He held out his hand. His first ability was called Just Space. Ability description: the ability to transform the structure of the physical shell, muscles, bones, blood channels, and so on. Second ability, Golden Halls. Ability description: transform laws within a 1-meter radius. Collecting the blue team is completed. Are you a Confucianist? Truly, the name corresponds to the content. Wu Kai asked how many ranks there were in total. The system responded, I know that, but I don't really want to tell you. Ask well. The newly arrived guy's system, on the contrary, responded immediately. As far as I know, there are 12 types. Wu Kai patted the new system. Here's how it looks like. I should think about changing the system. The system asked what rank Wu Kai had, but he replied that it was a secret. The system got a little angry. When you are treated with kindness and trust, you need to show gratitude. In addition, only by getting to know each other's abilities can you achieve better interaction with your partner. The bald man waved his fan and said that girls should always give in a little, a noble husband should always. Before he could finish speaking, the Wu Kai system interrupted him and said that despite having such a body, he was a man. The bald guy and his system were surprised by this statement. Then the bald guy was ambiguously embarrassed and wanted to say something, but Wu Kai turned around and said that it would be better for them to run as soon as possible. Flying drones appeared behind them. The man bravely turned to them and said that the real blessing of the native husband should protect the beauty, that is, a friend, and there are more and more flying drones. A truly ennobled husband should not run away from a challenge. But then, in addition to drones, huge robots also materialized. The bald man's face paled and he came to the conclusion that a true noble husband should listen to other people's opinions sometimes. He turned to Wu Kai, but he was already far away. The man ran after him. Partner, why didn't you call out to me? What's our next plan? Wu Kai ran, and in the memories of the previous owner, he recalled a point on the map. Follow me. Meanwhile, the two girls were surrounded by a group of criminals. One of the girls said that she found a blue group. These two girls were in the red team. One of them was named Xiao Nian, rank Private. The other was called Xiao Hua, ranks Guardian. First ability, Animism. Ability description, all living things favor the ability's owner a priori. It works within the range of perception. Suddenly, the door to the room opened and a man with green hair walked in. Follow me. You are not unlucky. We just came in and got a chance to see the boss right away. They went up the stairs and eventually came to the boss room. Boss, I brought someone. The boss let them pass. Then the girls were surrounded by local residents. The boss said that he was happy with the quality of this product. He grabbed the girl by the neck and she answered, I've had a lot of luck in this building. First ability, Anger Comprehension. Ability description, ability to launch attacks with 1000% power up. The girl attacked the boss. He liked people as sprightly as her. The girl threw a punch, but the boss was gone. Is this teleportation? How is this possible? Is he a perfect carrier?